Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I want to talk to you about a couple of important subjects today. I'm going to start off with updates from Gaza on the ground, a couple of updates from Lebanon too. And the main thing that I want to talk about is the recent statements from Benjamin Netanyahu and the opposition leader when it comes to the deal, potentially the deal, and statements that are hinting that these two are going to form some sort of a coalition sometime soon at the expense of the far-right allies of Benjamin Netanyahu. To start off with Gaza, we've had intense battles today in Gaza City. Al-Qassam brigades, they released videos of them targeting at least 3 tanks with Yasin 105 RPGs. Now, these have been the most effective RPGs that Hamas have used in this war. They manufacture them. They have a double warhead to penetrate and explode again. And most of the videos that they've shown us during this war was with Yasin 105 targeting Israeli tanks and Israeli vehicles. And these people they aim so well from a very far distance, and they hit their targets and they cause a lot of damage. Like with one of the videos that we've seen today, one of the tanks was burning and no one was coming to rescue them. A Hannibal directive for the 100th time probably by Israel. They neglect many of their soldiers and tanks if they cannot rescue them, and only reach them after a very long time. So they attacked at least 3 tanks, Israeli tanks. Most likely everyone inside them was completely roasted. One very important development is a major was killed from an elite unit called Shaldag in Israel, and another soldier from that unit was killed too. Israel also withdrew a brigade from Gaza today. Brigade 5, they withdrew it from Gaza. So we're seeing more withdrawals, but the battles are still intense in multiple parts. We've heard that they're flooding the tunnels again. This might be linked to the fact that they're about to reach a deal. Okay, they want to highlight as many accomplishments as possible, and Israeli media is full of these semi-accomplishments about the level of destruction. They're flooding the tunnels. They're calling some hospitals that they attack like Al-Amal Shifa 2 because of the significance of what they supposedly considered Al-Shifa to be, although they found nothing underneath it. Apparently it was the Hamas base, but we found exactly what was there underneath that hospital. They had to fabricate evidence, and they were caught. So these were the main things from Gaza. In Lebanon, we still had more attacks, and we had an interesting development where Israel ordered its soldiers to get out of the settlements that are close to Lebanon. Now, Israel evacuated most of the residents from all of the settlements next to the Lebanese borders, about 80,000 approximately. However, the soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, went into some of these homes. That's why when you see Hezbollah attacking Israeli homes in the north, most likely Israeli soldiers are there. Now they asked them to withdraw in fear of action being taken from Ridwan unit, the elite unit for Hezbollah. There were also several warnings inside of Israel from ministerial bodies about the potential of having a complete outage. People must be prepared for darkness for at least 48 to 72 hours. People need to prepare food. People need to prepare batteries. People need to prepare anything to do with energy. Make sure that people who are disabled or whatever have the relevant stuff that they need with them, medicine, all of these things, because there's a potential of an all-out war going on with Lebanon. Interesting. You're talking about a deal with Gaza. Are they preparing for an all-out war with Lebanon? Perhaps. They've made several threats before. They're taking out all of their units from Gaza, and they are not to be trusted. Israel is very well known that if any side attacks it, they don't forget. They never forget, even if it's 40 years later. They will still want to retaliate. There are talks about them asking Hezbollah to move 40 kilometers up the northern border. And in other reports, we've heard that they're asking them to move 7 kilometers away to potentially avoid an all-out war. So there's a very, very high risk of it escalating and getting out of control completely. However, the main thing that I want to talk to you about is the latest statements from Benjamin Netanyahu. So they had an event in the Israeli Knesset to mark the 75th year of the establishment of the Israeli Knesset, and they obviously made some statements. Now, usually these statements are to signal and highlight the importance of the Israeli Knesset and, you know, their work and supposed democracy, all of these things. But normally, you know, they spoke about the war a lot. Now, it was very interesting to hear Benjamin Netanyahu's tone when it came to his speech in the Israeli Knesset. He was saying about how they're going through times that resemble the beginning of the state of Israel. He obviously paid respect to the people who were killed in Gaza in this last war. And the man was speaking about victory. So during his sentence, he said that when the forces went into Gaza and they attacked the parliament for Hamas, the place that they use obviously for political purposes in Gaza, and how much of an image it was in terms of victory for Israel. It was a massive image of victory for Israel, okay? And he also added some other accomplishments when it comes to Gaza, and he spoke a lot about victory and that we need to reassure our existence in this country and for generations, not just for now. He didn't speak about eliminating Hamas. He spoke about eliminating the threat. All of a sudden, this guy's not talking about eliminating Hamas. He was constantly banging on about this so many times previously, but now he's stopping. He is no longer mentioning the need to demolish the Hamas, but to eliminate the threat and making sure that this threat never comes to Israel again, that Gaza is no longer capable of doing what they did on the 7th of October. Another very interesting thing we heard is a statement from the opposition leader, Yair Lapid, in that same ceremony. He said that the image of victory in Gaza wouldn't be by killing Yahya Sinwar. They were talking a lot about assassinating the Hamas heads or expelling them from Gaza. He said the image of victory won't be with killing Yahya Sinwar, and how much pain Israelis are in at the moment. Everywhere you go, you see pain. But the image of victory is us being good with each other. Wow. All of a sudden, they're talking about us being good with each other. But what's the secret behind this? Well, obviously, we were speaking about the potential of Yair Lapid in the past few videos joining the Israeli government instead of the far right, because Netanyahu wants to make a deal with Hamas that will go against everything he said previously. Typical Benjamin Netanyahu, go against everything he said, and obviously his far right extreme allies are fuming in the government, and Ben Gvir, at least the national security minister, he said he won't be in a government if they reach such a deal. Now he has Lapid again, the person who said he will never form a government with Netanyahu, etc. We're hearing reports in multiple Israeli media sources online that Yariv Levin, who is the justice minister and the person who led the judicial reform, this person is a very, very controversial figure in Israel and has been for the past 1.5 years because he was leading the judicial reform despite all of the protests in Israel. The latest report is saying that Yair Lapid, the opposition leader, will be offered the position of a justice minister. He will go in a government with Benjamin Netanyahu, provided all of the security it needs for a specific period of time so that they can get a deal, keep the government stable, and get rid of the far right in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, if he does this, he would have done it yet again. This person, no matter how much mess he puts himself in, he finds a way out. He'll give ministerial positions, offer very cushy stuff to people who supposedly hate the living daylight out of him, and get himself out of trouble. This is what's supposedly going to happen in the next few days, because Israel, according to all of the reports, is waiting for Hamas to give an answer about the ceasefire deal. They obviously met in Paris. 2 heads of intelligence of Israel were there. Burns was there from the United States, not Blinken, and the heads of the intelligence of Qatar and Egypt. So Israelis took it seriously, and clearly they accepted the deal if they're only waiting for Hamas. They accepted this formula that was proposed, reportedly 45 days of initial ceasefire, the release of thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Some reports said about 5,000, 435 Israelis, and then continuing this ceasefire. This would be obviously not a step down the ladder, but someone going on a parachute and going down when it comes to Israel, especially after their massive objectives in the beginning of this war that we said were unrealistic and that are not going to happen, especially when it comes to eliminating Hamas. The ball is in Hamas's court. When it comes to Hamas, they will be talking about the details of this offer. So they want guarantees that even if we reach a temporary ceasefire, that Israel wouldn't be able to continue carrying out this genocide against the Palestinian people after the initial 45 days. So yet again, we're seeing Israel backing down from the war objectives that they had and trying to reach a deal with Hamas. And the opposition, led by Yair Lapid, they're clearly also changing all of their tone that they had previously. They were calling for new elections. They were calling for ousting Netanyahu. They were calling for getting rid of Netanyahu. They were calling for everything against Benjamin Netanyahu. He's unable to lead the country. There's a crisis going on. All of a sudden, everything is changing. However, the answer still hasn't been received from Hamas. Everyone is waiting for Hamas now. They will be discussing the small nitty-gritty details about this, and it won't be just them who will be giving the response. Hamas is talking on behalf of all of the Palestinian resistance. Primarily, when it comes to the Palestinian resistance, you're talking about the PIJ, right? Because PIJ are the second largest militant group in Gaza. There are some other groups in Gaza that have Israeli prisoners, but they're not as significant. The vast majority of prisoners are held by Hamas, over 80% of them. Approximately 18% by the PIJ, and the rest of them, very small amounts, with other groups in Gaza that participated in the 7th of October. So they will be talking on behalf of everyone. And the other parties, especially the PIJ, they are as hard as Hamas when it comes to their conditions. They were the ones to speak about Israel withdrawing before Hamas. And there was a potential that they actually put this term for the ceasefire, and Hamas agreed with them, accepting the fact that Israel must withdraw completely from Gaza and not only end the war. Now, we've reached this stage primarily because of the strength of the Palestinian resistance. mainly the Palestinian resistance. The fact that they were able to last so long in this war, the fact that they manufactured most of their weapons that they used against Israel in this war, and their resilience and strength in standing up against Israel and continuing to this day with so much defense and so much attack capabilities, when we're almost 120 days in this war, this was the main thing that is leading to this moment. Now, obviously, things are not completely confirmed yet. We're still awaiting a response, but it's very likely that we're getting there in terms of a deal, at least with Gaza. What they're preparing for Lebanon, we're not sure of yet, but there are many risks with Lebanon. But in terms of Gaza, it looks like there might be a deal very, very soon. And it wasn't only the pressure from the Palestinian resistance, by the way. Today, Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, he visited Israeli factories, weapons factories in Israel. And he said something very interesting. He said that this war proved our need to manufacture our own weapons. So clearly, there is leverage from America, primarily from the United States, against Israel when it comes to the weapons. Don't forget, from the beginning, when Israel reduced its amount of bombardment and barbarism, when it comes to the airstrikes, it was from the United States. When they requested more tank shells, they did get them. But the supply is not indefinite. It's not endless. So they know that the US is using this as leverage against them. And this statement just proves it, because they will be focusing more. And in his statement as well, he said we need to focus more on arming ourselves in every single way and with every type of weapon that we need, whether when it comes to shells, but in other things as well. So these were the main things that I wanted to talk to you about today, and I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Take care.